We're joined once again by Chris Broussard. Chris, how should the NBA handle this?
I've had some history with things like this. One, Martin Luther King Day fights happen. Like yesterday, Kyle Lowry
nonviolence
and Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
I was covering the Knicks in 2001 when Marcus Camby ran across the court and tried to sucker punch Danny Ferry and ended up Jeff Van Gundy went and tackled him. I was right there. And just to show you how things, Camby got 5 games for that. Now that was on the court.
Correct.
1999, I was covering the Nets, the New Jersey Nets. Kendall Gill and Steve Smith got into a fight in the hallway after the game. Kendall went looking for Steve Smith, punched him a couple of times, and Kendall knew all that jiu-jitsu and MMA stuff. Each of them got $2,500 fine. That's it. That's how different things were back in 1999. But, I think the incident you can compare to it was when Carmelo Anthony in 2013 went to the bus to confront Kevin Garnett after the game, and Melo got a 1-game suspension. I'm going to say that the 4 Rockets players involved, including Chris Paul, all of them should get a 2-game suspension. The purpose of the punishment is to deter things like this from happening in the future. You've got to hit them with something that's going to hurt and make them think twice. And Chris being the president of the Players Association, he's got to know better. Look, we can talk about Austin talking trash, and I know he was talking trash, and some players don't like him. But to me, this was about Chris Paul being embarrassed to go back to the team you demanded a trade from and losing pretty handily.
For the second time.
Yeah, he was upset and frustrated.
And first of all, this is how it works. If you demand a trade, you're not getting a video tribute. They need to stop with some of these video tributes. They make it seem like everybody had a Kobe Bryant career. Like they played 15, 20 years. They won championship. Kelly Olynyk. They should have gave him a gift basket or hair product and said, okay, that's it. That's all you getting from us. Everybody doesn't deserve a video tribute. With that being said, you got to give them 2 games, Skip. You got to let them know this is unacceptable. We don't condone this kind of behavior. We want to deter this kind of behavior, and further behavior would be met with stiffer and harsher penalties.
Yep.
I get it. Chris Paul has always had a chip on his shoulder. He mad at the wrong person because everybody that's on that court, nobody can make him any taller. Now, see, if I was Blake Griffin, you know what I'd done? I'd have put my elbow on his head like this here. Will you stop, little man? Will you stop playing? Now, you read Chris Paul's lips, what he said to Blake Griffin.
I did.
If you say that to your former teammate, that lets me know you guys ain't never been close.
Oh.
Never, ever.
That's one of the reasons they never reached their potential.
That is correct.
Yes.
It was the flashpoint of those two because that team underachieved for 4 years.
Yes.
No question.
And so you got to send a message. They look at Blake, and a lot of times, and Chris, you and I were talking about this off air, they look at their skin complexion and they see softness. So you look at Austin Rivers, you look at Blake Griffin. The same thing with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson.
Yep.
But you know, one of the light-skinned brothers going to have to drop somebody, Joy. If you drop one of them, and then everything will be okay. But you can't be going to somebody's locker room. You lost. They make it seem like this was the first time they lost. You lost the ball game. Move on. I get the chippiness. I get it, Chris. You didn't want to be in the Clippers locker room. That's why you demanded a trade. What you going back over there for now? And you going to go through the secret passageway? Should have met you there. Ooh.
I agree
get
with
it right
you.
one.
Commissioner Silver has got to drop the gavel and the hammer on this one. 2 games apiece for those 4, even though conflicting reports about how far Chris went into the locker room. He is the president, as you point out, of the Players Association. He instigated this. He was the only one who knew the secret passage back door to the other locker room. And I do agree with, there was one anonymous quote from an eyewitness inside the Clippers locker room who said on ESPN.com, it was classic NBA. None of these guys were going to fight. I basically agree with that. But it's such a bad look. It looks like a gang fight was escalating.
Correct.
In a league that is starting to threaten the National Football League in popularity. Obviously, globally it is, but even in the States, it's coming. And you can't have this look. It's such a bad look. It's the wrong message to send when your game is on the rise.
We get a couple more games like the Saints in Minnesota at $46 million.
There you go.
It's gonna be bye-bye. It's gonna be bye-bye again, NBA.
We still got,
Got this week. Got two good games this week.
Okay, so back to Blake Griffin. I only wish for his sake he could play every night the way he played last night with that chip on his shoulder, because that's what I've wanted to see from him. You and I used to argue about him before the draft. You remember this?
Yep.
And I watched him so many games at Oklahoma, and I said, just fight back, because the book on him in the Big 12 was, and he had a big brother, a literal big brother on the team who was his bodyguard and protector, and everybody. The book was just knock him around early, push him around, cheap shot him, and he'll shrink. And he couldn't shoot. He couldn't make a shot from more than 2 feet outside from the basket. Well, he's learned to shoot. He's really a talented player. You know, he can pass. He had 6 assists last night. And yet, that's been the book on him. And those two clashed, he and Chris. That guy last night, that's a force, man, because he came out with the chip on his shoulder. And I don't like the chippy play, but I kind of loved it because I could see that he had some gumption last night, right? He fought back. He pushed back a little bit.
Right.
I don't need him to throw a punch, but I need him to push back occasionally just to draw a line to say, I'm here. And he got called that word by Chris Paul, and that's what Chris always thought of him, for better or for worse.
Yeah. But at some point, you got to change the narrative, because as long as people perceive you as being soft, they will treat you as soft, and they'll walk over you. Even if look, at some point in time, Skip, you might have to take a butt whipping, but you got to make it so you won't come back.
You might.
You might get me, Joy. You might get me, but I'm gonna make it so that you're like, you know what? I got him that time. I don't want no more of it.
Yep. And Austin Rivers, I like him. I like him personally, so I admit maybe I should disqualify myself, but I do like him personally, and I believe he's made of tough stuff because he had to be made of tough stuff all the way up.
Right.
He was always daddy's kid, playing for daddy, and he still gets a bad rap for that, because on December 23rd, he went to Houston against these guys, and he laid 36 on them, and they won the game by 10. So he can play a little. I'm not saying he's an all-star, but he can play. He can hold up his end of the bargain.
36 points in the NBA game is good.
He's turned himself into a legitimate
legitimate
NBA
player.
Legitimate rotation player. You can't say, oh, it's just the coach's son anymore. That saved him. Doc saved his career. But Austin's become like a
I got
solid
it. But
player.
Doc's a tough guy from Chicago, and I think he instilled a certain toughness in his kid.
Yeah, I agree.
And his kid will fight. I don't want to see him fight, but he'll fight back. He'll take a stand.
Because people take advantage of you.
The two people involved in this that would have fought were Trevor Ariza and Austin Rivers. Like, they would have fought. And I was told by somebody that was in there witnessing this, that it never got, like, the Rockets were talking, but it never was like they're being held back, or, you know what I mean? Like, they really wanted to get in there and do something. But nevertheless, why are you even going over there if you really not going to fight? Yeah, so they
get exactly what they're looking for.
If they did fight, think how ugly that would be. That's why Adam Silver has to drop the hammer.
But that's what happens, Skip. You look, my brother was 3 years older than I was. And so everybody that didn't like him, what they try to do? They try to pick on me.
They would.
So, Joy, I don't like to fight. A little tougher. I couldn't beat my brother. So I got to get somebody. I can get me a win again. I mean, what I'm supposed to do, Joy?
Like you said, so one of these light-skinned brothers might have to knock. I used to knock out plenty of dark dudes, Joe Cullen. I used to knock them out all the time. Like bowling pins.
Joy, look at Joy. We all know that the case. See Joy, that little sister. See Joy go with you. See Joy, that little sister. Oh, she gonna go with Big Brother and handle some work.
But wait a second. The lightest skinned brother at this table is over here.
Oh, I know you ain't gonna. Oh, I already know. We all gonna just keep the car running. Joy and I handle this. Just keep the car running. Hey,
don't put my name in this. I stay out of trouble.
No, she angry too because she's 5 foot tall. She angry. She mad at everybody.
No, well, I'm not walking over to the locker room to be hold me back, guy. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.